What if you could afford everything you truly want without constantly stressing over money? In this episode, I'm joined by Dr. Darla Bishop, financial expert and author of How to Afford Everything, to break down the real way to manage money, pay off debt, and create financial freedom without sacrificing the things that bring you joy. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, the show where we tackle the taboo topics of money and manifestation. I'm your host, Jenny Schultz, former 9-to-5 grinder who ditched the status quo and went all in on creating a life I love. Yes, I used manifestation. Yes, I took action. And yes, I created a 7-figure net worth before turning 40. Every week, I'll bring you inspiring stories with money mavens and manifestation masters. From learning how to make more, save more, and grow your wealth to unlocking the power of manifesting your dream life. I am so excited to play in this space with you. Let's jump into creating a life you love. Welcome to the Manifestation and Money podcast, Dr. Darla Bishop.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited. In our pre-show, we talked about how we're going to have a fun convo. So let's get to it.
Yeah, because we're two girls and we love to talk about money, right?
It's true. It's my favorite thing to talk about.
Yeah. So I would like to hear, what is the story? Where did the money piece come in for you? What is your story?
So because I know I don't have all day, I'll give you the short version. Is when I went to college, I was surrounded by some classmates who were really well off. And I was like, but I'm smarter than them. So if I can figure out money, then I will be as far in life, maybe even further than they and their parents are. And so I started reading personal finance books because I'm a nerd. I would go to the library and check out personal finance books. And by the time I left college and was going to grad school the first time, I had read like 30 or 40 books and I kept reading them. And by the time I read 100, my husband noticed I'd finished yet another one because it's actually one of my favorite things to read because I like talking about money, I like reading about money. And he was like, "Oh, how was that book?" And I was like, "Ugh, I could have wrote this book." And he was like, "You've said that the last few times you read a book. You've talked about writing one. Like, what's keeping you from doing it now?" I'd finally finished my doctorate. And so he was like, do you have space? Do you have time? What would it take? And I was like, "You're right. I'm going to write it." So I did. So in 2023, I published a book called How to Afford Everything because it's a mix of all the books that I read, the things that I felt were missing from those books, and the things that I wish someone had told me to save me some years and tears on my journey to feel good about money, because it feels good to feel good about money.
Yeah. So let's go there. Let's go to your book here because the title alone, How to Afford Everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How to Afford Everything. Yes, here she is. This is my little baby.
Pretty, very pretty.
And part of the reason I gave it such a bold title, right? One of our peers in the space, Paula, she says you can afford anything, but not everything. And I remember that sticking in my head. And I was like, okay, but the thing that when I'm working with someone, and this first started as my friends and my siblings kind of realizing, "You have money all the time. How? Show me how you do that." So then I kind of like, well, I'll look at your budget, and we'd sit down and talk through it. And then I started being referred to friends and coworkers and folks that I didn't know as well. So I'd really have to get into their business in order to help them work out their budget. And the thing that people would say over and over again, I'm like, "So what is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is it that you want to do? Why did you reach out to me?" And get over whatever it took you to get over to actually say, "Well, maybe Darla can help me." And they were like, I'm just tired. I just want to be able to do everything I need to do. I just want to be able to afford everything I need to." And it was like, oh, it's that everything isn't the world. It isn't yachts. It isn't big trips for everyone. It's literally just, I just want to live my life and do the things that make me happy and keep me safe and keep me healthy and to not be all worried about it. So I was like, you know what? That's the title, How to Afford Everything.
That is fantastic. And that's so true. When we sit back and want the true essence of the things we want in our life, we just want to go to the coffee shop occasionally with our friends to sit down and have a really good chat. We might want to sign up for that pottery class, right? Realistic, we only have so much time in our day. We can't be doing all the things. So that's fun. What do you feel for you that the other books were missing that your book has?
Oh, there were two things missing. And it really frustrated me because I was on purpose going to the library or purchasing the book so that I could learned something that I knew I didn't have from the adults around me. And so many of the books had this, you are poor and you are broke because you made bad decisions. And that just wasn't my story. And it used to frustrate me so much so that I almost would put the book down or put the book back on the shelf. But I'd be like, no, but I need the lesson. So I have to kind of be like, that person must not be talking to me and ignore that part and just like try to get the lesson from the book. And I remember that, frankly, just making me mad. Like, hold up. No, I'm not lazy. I'm not tired. I'm not broke. I've made really good decisions. Just the menu of choices available to me haven't been that awesome. So the fact that I'm here at a full-time university as a full-time student is a miracle. And for you to say, after I've taken my time, the walk, the extra bus to get your book off of a shelf, to maybe even pay money for it, and to tell me I'm a loser, what? No, that's not how we're going to do that. So my book is very much like, hey, I'm your big sister and I love you and we're going to get through this and you can do it and I believe in you. And if you don't believe in you, I believe in you and then you'll believe in you soon. So it's very much in that tone because that was really frustrating for me as somebody just looking for the answers and being told I was a loser.
Yeah. That's not a good starting point. Realistically, if you're picking up a money book, you are wanting the support and the guidance to elevate yourself, not feel like your face is being ground down in the mud. So
Right.
you had people that were reaching out to you and you were digging into budgeting and stuff. So let's go there for a minute because right now we're recording this. It's the end of January, right? So there was probably a lot of spending that happened last month over the holidays for a lot of people that now they're getting the credit card bills and they're going, ah, let's talk about debt. Let's go there. How do you suggest people start working their way out of debt?
So 100% of the time, I always tell people to go snowball. So if you've know anything about debt repayment, there are two main ways that financial people talk about paying off your debt. They say, make a list of everything you owe. And for me, tell you to include money you might have borrowed from a friend or a family member or a coworker, because it's important to pay back those debts too, because those folks helped you out when you needed it. And yes, the big bank did. Yes, the medium bank did. But so that these people in your life, these real people in your life. So write down that $20 you borrowed or that time that someone helped you get your car a tank full of gas. Like write those things down too. And then after you write all your debts, do you then tackle them by the interest rate? So, like, okay, this thing has the highest interest, so I'm going to work on this one first. Or do you tackle them by the smallest balance? This one, I only owe $100 and I could probably pay that off pretty quickly. So, which way do you go? Smallest balance, which is snowball, or highest interest, because maybe it's costing you the most to have that debt. I 100% of the time recommend snowball, because if you've been in a not so great situation for any amount of time, your confidence around money is probably shot. And so if I can get you on a plan that feels like you are making progress quickly, and with a snowball plan, we can usually take care of one, three, sometimes even five of your smaller debts within just a couple of months, then you're like, oh, I'm doing it. Okay, that freed up that money to either pay off other debts or to just give me a little more wiggle room. What else could I do to either do this faster or so that I don't have to go into debt again when this thing comes up? Because then your confidence is built and your momentum is going and you're feeling good about it. And your creativity comes back too.
Yeah. Yeah. I was just thinking that exact thing that you just mentioned, especially if you're paying off the people for the tanks of gas and stuff. I think your integrity would get a boost too. You're feeling like somebody helped you out. Now I was able to give that back. One, that person is probably going to be more likely to help you out again in the future, knowing that there's a give and take there. You are supporting each other and you've got to feel good. And when you come from that place of feeling good, it's easier probably to say, yes, I'm not going to go out for lunch 3 times this week. I'm actually going to now put that money towards a debt because I feel good and confident in my skills that I'm building.
Yeah. Or you might say, wow, this would be so much easier if I had $500 more per month because then I could really take care of it. And you might say, what does that mean? Does that mean I go get a side hustle? Does that mean I change where I live? Because maybe where I live right now is more expensive than it could be. Is it that I update my resume and I start a job search? Because only $500, which might feel like a lot, but if you're looking for a job, $500 a month really only breaks down to 125 a week, about $3 more per hour. Could you go and create that in the next few months so that then you just have more room in your budget for everything, not only paying off the debt, but so that you can build up an emergency fund so that you don't even have to use debt the next time something comes up that needs money?
Valid point there. And I really like that because you're coming from a place of possibility then. You're not just trying to cut all the corners and shrinking into that place of, okay, I'm trying to give up everything to get back on a level playing field. If you're trying to raise the bar of your income that you're bringing in every month, that is giving you freedom moving forward.
That's right.
That's
And
how
I
you
mean,
can afford
things,
everything, right?
it is. And I mean, the prices of things don't typically go down, they typically go up. And so why is it that when we are working on our budgets, we say, well, I'll just cut everything out. No, that's not sustainable. And it doesn't feel great. And for some people, they already are living pretty tight. And so they might not even have the space to cut out. And I have children. So there are things, I'm raising small kids, they're 4 and 6. There are things that, as much as I would love to put off the cleats for soccer, when it's soccer season and they go through a growth spurt, I can't be like, okay, we'll do that 2 months from now. No, the soccer season will be over. So I have to go get the cleats that week.
Yeah, that's all super valid. I resonate with you because I got 2 little munchkins that are 4 and 8 in my house. So yes, they burn through clothes, they wreck things, they need to be replaced not instantly, but yes, there's some things you can't go to school if you don't have shoes on your feet. So you've got to do that. Now, you had mentioned something before the show that you don't aspire to fire. And we talk about the fire movement on the show because there's so many people that is kind of the golden ticket that they're striving for. And I want to hear your thoughts on it. What is the reason why you don't aspire to fire?
Yeah, and I wanted to mention that because I know that that's such a big part of your life and what you all talk about and what your guests talk about. And I was like, I didn't want you to I didn't want to be found out. So I had to mention it. So I don't aspire to fire, partially because I'm a military spouse. And so my career has to be fluid in so many ways because the Army literally changes my life every 2.7 years. And so for me, early retirement doesn't even feel like it would fit in the way that we live our lives, in the way that I've been able to be creative and flexible in my career, because having a career is important to me. I went to all this school. We got to use all this learning for something. And so, really, what has been more important to me is to make sure that the periods that I am able to work full time, which isn't always, that I'm in a space where I love what I'm doing. I can see the impact that I'm making in the communities we're serving or living in, and that the compensation I'm getting there is fueling our lifestyle now, and then also what will likely be a work break, because I've had several work breaks, because when we move, sometimes I'm able to walk into a job within a couple of months. There have been times where we moved somewhere and it took me 6 or 9 months to find work that felt great. And so early retirement can't be the goal if the money that I'm stacking up when I am gainfully employed actually is taking the load off of these breaks that actually come up more intermittently for me. So
Yep.
early retirement's like not the goal. Happy work life and loving what I do when I am working and employed for someone is more important.
Yeah. And that's where I think a lot of the guests on this show is where the conversation seems to be trending. You want that lifestyle piece. What is that money doing for you now? And for you, if you have those gaps in space and time where you aren't working, but you can make the money and know that you're proactively saving for your future and your retirement and allowing yourself to live for now, you're at peace with the lifestyle that you're building for now and the future, right?
Right. And when my husband does retire from the military, I'll actually be able to work like however I want, right? Because I've been kind of, in a lot of ways, my career takes second string on purpose, because if the military tells us we need to be somewhere, we're going to go. So when he finally retires in about 10 years, and I can fully work, I am not going to retire. I'm going to be like, great, I'm going to go climb the corporate ladder and be the COO, CEO, see whatever I want. And you stay here and manage the kids, and I'll be back in a couple years. And I'll see you on the weekends. Like, I don't know. I feel like I'm kind of waiting for him to retire so I can be my full career self, because I've hadn't been able to really do that in the same way if he was more traditionally employed or employed as a civilian.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. I'm curious to see how that dream plays out for you, just in the fact that right now you've kind of curated this really flexible lifestyle. That's the flow that you've got yourself in. So to go into some kind of career where you're in corporate working up the ladder, where you're bound to somebody else's time schedule. And I'm just curious to see if you're like, hey, no, I want to be my own CEO and build my own company where you have that flex in your life, right? I'm just
Yeah,
kidding.
we'll see. But so much of that is driven by requirements, right? Like because of the little kids, because of the military schedule, I have to be the parent with flexibility. And so I kind of am like looking forward to the place where I won't have to be the parent with the flexibility, right? But it's always the grass is always greener, right? I'm doing this now and like what will it be like to have the opposite?
Yeah, that's good back there. So if we could go back in time here for a bit, what would be some advice for you that you would have that you wish that somebody had told you out of the gate on ways to accelerate, say, investments or accelerate how you managed your money?
The most important things that I learned and that I hope people learn as they listen to me or read my book is that you can help your family. That was the second thing that was missing. My family had been through a lot of things when I was getting out of high school and going to college. And as I was trying to understand the money piece, all the books told me to cut everybody off while you're paying off your debt, while you're saving up your accounts. If someone asks for something, you say no because you're focused on your goals and you can get back to them later. And that didn't feel good for me. Not the way that my family dynamic works, not the way that I want it to operate. I want it to be able to contribute because it's kind of like I want it to be what I think I needed. I want it to be the person that when someone calls and say, oh, this happened and it's only going to take this much. How are we going to do it? And be like, actually, I have that. I can take care of that. I'll send it right away, or I'll buy those cleats, or we can get that prom dress you really like, right? I wanted to show people a framework for if you have family obligations that are really deeply important to you, that there is a way to both manage those family obligations in a way that feels good to your soul and your body and your heart, while also building your own fortune. The most important thing to start when it comes to building your fortune is starting and being consistent. So even if that means all you're putting away in a retirement account, in a brokerage or investing account, in a savings account or emergency fund, even if it's as small as $5 or $10, cool. If that's where we are, then let's start there because that time will help you and you're building up again the habit of saving, the habit of investing, and evidence that you can do it.
Yeah, you're proving to yourself that you can do it.
Mm-hmm.
Good point. And you're keeping getting that little snowball, like you said earlier, in the savings side, as well as the
That's
debt pay
right.
down side. We got snowballs happening all
Yeah.
over.
All over the place. And and it's one of those things where, $5 every paycheck turns into 60. Not it doesn't take all that long to turn into 60. And then it'll turn to 100. And you're like, huh, I wonder what would happen if I could put $10 instead, or even 20. And again, you start to see that power of small action over time. And then you get excited about how to take slightly bigger actions.
Yeah, that totally makes sense. What is your biggest piece of advice for someone who is trying to create that lifestyle they love?
The thing that we sometimes forget is we forget that there are all these things that are important to us and we don't label them the right way. So I have this story and I think I have time to tell it.
Yeah.
I was on a different podcast and it was a two-host situation and the male host said, well, okay, well, how do I convince my wife to let me buy a boat? And I said, actually, you're going to like my answer. I said, tell me why you want the boat. Is it that the boat, when you're on the water, you just feel so at peace, you feel so happy, the wind through your hair? Is it that that's the only way all your siblings will come out if you're pulling the boat out? Is it that that's just what you like to do on the weekends? You like to fish and you like to cook for your family? And he was like, well, part of it is my parents are getting older and it's we haven't as a family and all the nieces or nephews are grown up now. So we haven't like been together, like all of us in a while. And I'm just worried I'm running out of time to do that. But I know if we have the boat and people will come out and we'll spend the weekend together. And I was like, okay, so you don't want the boat, you want family time. So is there a different way to create that? You said you're the oldest. Can you say, I'm the big brother, we're having a family party on this day. If you're not there, I'm mad at you. Can you do that? Is there a way that you could get your parents to say, we want to celebrate something about you? It's an anniversary, even if it's an anniversary that isn't a milestone. It could be the 37th. Like, fine. We're having a party and everybody needs to show up. Like, if what you're really after, you're telling me, is time with your siblings and your parents while everybody is still available to be together, then find a different way to do that. If after you do that, you're still feeling like, no, I still want the boat, great. Make a plan to buy the boat, or you can rent just about anything. So go rent a boat, spend a bunch of money to rent it, but then send it back and keep the rest of the money and those monthly payments in your bank account.
I love that so much. I think if people took that and went and journaled on it, why do I want the things that I want? Mind blown, right? Like, I bet you're
Mhm.
going to get to those connection points, those feel good, to feel safe, to feel loved, to feel surrounded by community. It's not about the stuff at the end of the day.
The stuff might be the literal vehicle, but the
Yeah.
vehicle can also be rented or temporary. Like you don't have to
Yeah.
sign yourself up for a 5-year car payment or a 10-year boat payment for a couple of weekends. You can rent those things now.
Yeah. My sister just rented one of those outdoor saunas for New Year's. So they rented the outdoor sauna, they had it for a day, they all got to hang out in it. The company came and picked it up and took it away because you're not going to be using it in the summertime, likely, right?
Mhm.
For me, our hot tub, Chris went outside yesterday, opened it up, it was empty. Somehow it got a crack in it this week, has completely drained out.
Oh no.
And I'm like, well, shoot, well, that is something that now we can't use. It's sitting in our yard. And so, yes, to put it in perspective, when you buy something, you own it. Now I'm responsible to have to go to get this flipping thing fixed, right? It
Hmm.
takes a lot of the extra bills off on renting something or borrowing something if it's not something that you're going to be using all the time.
Right. And
Yeah.
it's and if it is something you think you'll use all the time, try it out first, right?
Yeah.
Like I had a cousin who really wanted to get a big pickup truck, and I was like, "You live in a city. Where are you going to park that thing? You have kids who are not very kind to car seats. Are you really going to let them eat in your car?" So I was like, "Go rent the biggest, loudest, like even go out to the rental car place in the rural area so you can get like a really big truck and get it out of your system." And he was like, "You know what? Driving that truck was awesome, but I wouldn't have been able to park it. I couldn't park it at work. I couldn't park it at home." You were right. And I was like, "See, I just saved you thousands of dollars,
Yeah.
thousands."
Thousands and thousands of dollars, possibly monthly, right? Like gas, insurance, all the big things, the payment on that new sucker. Yeah, valid point there. So I know you've got your own podcast, you've got a book. Can you please share where people listening can reach out and catch more of you?
Yeah, so I have a very tiny podcast. I actually prefer doing this. I love visiting other people's podcasts. This is my favorite thing to do because I get to talk about money, not just with myself. But the easiest way to find me is darlabishop.com. And there you'll find a link to my podcast miniseries on YouTube, links to my book, and tons of freebies in the Resource Center.
Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Darla. I will link those in the show notes for people. And thank you so much for having this fun conversation with me today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you for listening to the Manifestation and Money podcast. If you're looking for ways to manifest more money and more abundance in your life, I invite you to join me in the Manifest More Moolah program. It would be you, me, and a small group of other equally cool humans meeting weekly in a Zoom room, exploring different ways to manifest more money and more abundance into your life. For more details, visit www.manifestationandmoney.com. Thank you for listening to the Manifestation of Money podcast. I truly, truly appreciate all of you for listening. Cheers to creating a life you love and the income streams to support it.